the One's Ready podcast, a team of Air Force Special Operators forged in combat with over 70 years of combined operational experience, as well as a decade of selection instructor experience. If you're tired of settling and you want to do something you truly believe in, you're in the right place. Now here's your favorite CCT personality, JTAC extraordinaire, embracer of the ridiculous face, and like the shortest operator you'll ever meet, Peaches.
Do you want to achieve your max? Check out CardoMax.com. Owned and operated by former Navy SEAL Sean Matson. They've got a couple different products that you guys can check out. They've got the Energy Intensifier, which is filled with BCAAs, B12, B6, and 200 milligrams of caffeine in 4 different flavors: watermelon, grape, pink raspberry, or blue raspberry rather, and pink lemonade. They also have hydration ones that has a whole bunch of stuff in it, but there's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce it because I couldn't even pronounce some other stuff that I did in some prior promo codes. So the hydration stuff has raspberry and lemon lime, really good. And then if you need some help with your immune system, they also have immune boosters that are in the orange and watermelon. They have a whole bunch of vitamin C and some other things in it to help you out. And they also have a recovery solution that you can use that comes in a cherry lime and a grape, and these have a whole bunch of BCAAs and vitamins in it as well. So please go check them out. Their stuff tastes really good. I really enjoy it. I try and tailor back from the caffeine a little bit just because I find myself just dumping a whole bunch of packets in there because they taste so good. So it's nice to kind of get a variety pack, if you will, because at least I can try the Energy Intensifier in the morning or kind of when I'm dying in the afternoon. And then late at night when I still want some flavor in my water, I throw in the immune booster or even the recovery drinks. And then who doesn't need hydration? So check them out. Promo code One's Ready at checkout will get you a discount. They support us, so we support them. We don't get anything from it, but definitely go check them out because their stuff is on fire. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room, and we have a special guest, actually one of our collaborators, Sean Matson. He is the owner and operator of Cardo Max and Matt Bach, actually. He does have a partner, Zach, in that whole mix that you guys do, but right now we're fortunate enough to have Sean on. Appreciate you coming.
Zach decided to sleep in today, so he had to put up with me.
Yeah. Zach's always doing that.
Right.
If we can trash him this entire episode, I think we're winning.
No doubt. Well, I mean, just so we can get it out of the way now, Zach and I did go through buds together, and the only reason he made it through buds is because I carried him. So,
wow.
Get that out right now.
Yeah. Every time you kept wanting to quit, every run he was falling back on, you'd have to go back.
I was there to wipe his tears, and I'm like, hey man, now, I'm 39, my back is killing me because I still have to carry him. It's just like, dude, when are you gonna start using your own 2 legs? So
yeah, I mean, all you've got him for is his looks, really.
And we're screwed there too.
Yeah.
No.
His boyish charm.
Yeah.
So
that's actually it's like whenever we're on like calls or anything like that, and they're like, hey, what's your background, all this stuff like that, it's always a race for us to figure out who gets to go first. And we're like, well, you can go. And immediately, so like he goes, he says the same thing. And if I go, I say the same thing. And they're just, it's always a good time to little break the ice on stuff. So.
Well, I guess with saying that, what's the real question is how far does I'm a former Navy SEAL take you? How many doors does that actually open for you?
I think I do think that like anything, right? Like if you're a professional athlete or, PJ or whatever, if you've been at the pinnacle of the organization that you're at, and you're at that professional level, it opens doors, no doubt. Right. And being able to say it, but I always tell guys, it's like, it might open a door, but then it's 100% on you. Once you cross that threshold, it's 100% on you and your follow up, your actions, how you proceeded in that meeting and stuff like that. If you're an asshole in that meeting, you're probably not going to go very far, right? Like it does help open doors, but then once you get through that door and that threshold, it's all on you then, right? And it's the person, it's your character, your the culture that you believe in, and everything else like that. And it's like once you walk in, it's like I don't know if you guys watch what's the TV show that's out right now? Oh man, Yellowstone. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. It's like, you're perfect. You got it. It's like taking your cowboy hat and you're putting it right on the, your hook, right? Like that's it. Like once it's in there, you check out, that's it. Right. Then once you're there, it's all on you. It's no longer the cowboy.
Well, and it's a double-edged blade as well, because at least, especially with other active duty people or anywhere you go, if you say you're a former whatever or you're special operations, if you come across as like a jerk at all, I don't know, it's like because some of these people have experiences, or if you come across as arrogant as all, you're kind of just confirming a lot of the negative stereotypes that they may or may not have already. And so, yeah, it'll get you places, but it's also dangerous.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, you better perform if you're going to say that, hey, I'm whatever. Yep. There's an expectation there for sure.
No doubt. There really is.
So I don't know actually when you graduated BUDS, and I'm sure that it has changed a lot since you went through, but I'd kind of like to reach back into BUDS a little bit through your experiences and see, one, did you always know you wanted to be a SEAL? And then how did you train?
Yeah, so I did. And I say always, for me, it was 12 years old. I was actually out in San Diego on Coronado Island. We were out there for a fifth grade. So like in fifth grade, we had to do like a state project. And my mom used to work for the airlines. She used to work for American Airlines, and she actually would fly us to our state. And so my sisters and I all got smarter. So I was a middle kid. My older sister, she did Arizona. We did the Grand Canyons and all that stuff like that. And then I went to California. But then my younger sister, she did Hawaii. So it was like everyone got smarter and went further and further west for that. But so California was my state. We're out in San Diego, and I saw these guys running down the beach with logs and boats, and I was just like, I loved swimming already, and I knew that I wanted to be in the Navy. I had family history of being in the Navy and things like that, and I grew up wanting to be a pilot. Top Gun was all on it, and so I was just kind of like. It was like I was going to be a pilot. And then when I was 12, I saw these guys running down. I'm like, I want to go do that. And I didn't even know what that was, but I was just like, that looked cool. They're in the water, like I could see myself swimming and doing that stuff. And I was like, that's what I want to go do. And so then started doing some research and was like, okay, that's, and started telling people, right away, like, that's what I want to go do.
The Top Gun's funny because it actually did better for Air Force recruiting than it did for Navy.
Yeah, no doubt. But, 2005, joined BUDS class 258. We ended up graduating. So it was like late 2005. We ended up graduating early 2006, March timeframe. And then going to SQT, our advanced training, and then ultimately going to Team 4 was my first team to go to. So I wanted to come back to the East Coast, but so 2005, my total time I did 13 years. So 2005 to 2018, 10 of that was active. The last 3 years was in the reserves.
Nice. And you were an officer?
I was, yeah. Yep.
What made you? I'm sorry. It's just we get a lot of questions about officers, and I don't really know that much about it, but we can tell them kind of what it's like or why people become stows or crows on our side of the house. But on the SEAL side, how involved are the officers in like operations and rank wise, and kind of what's their role and responsibility? Not only through BUDS, because I'm assuming you had to be a leader through BUDS, but then once you get on team.
Well, as you guys know, it's one of those unique pipelines where officers and enlisted go through the same training. So buds, basic underwater demolition, SEALs and both officers and enlisted are going through the exact same training, but they're expecting you as an officer to also lead the guys, right? And it's like, I'm learning the same stuff that those guys are. Like, I can't really lead them to do it when I'm learning the same thing, but they also, I think it also adds that dynamic of, having to step up when you're truly equals, right? And step up and then like, hey, I am an officer. Like, this is what we're doing. You listen to what everyone is saying that we should do and make a decision, and then you execute. And I think that does help groom, officers to, when you become an AOIC or assistant officer in charge. So when you're a new guy and you go to your platoon, you have your OIC and then you have your AOIC. And I think that helps, that transition helps you, because it's like, now you're going into a platoon where you have guys that have, obviously same guy, same as you, they just came out of buds like you did. And you have guys that have 4, 5, 6 deployments underneath their belt or more. And now you're second in charge of this platoon, but really you're not, yes. I mean, if something happened to the OIC, you're supposed to step up and take charge. But it's like, I very much relied on my chief, my team leaders, and everybody else. Like, hey, like, what the hell should I be doing here? Like, and you learn real quickly who those guys are in your platoon. I mean, everybody knows. I mean, it's the guy that's sitting over there tinkering with his gear. It's the guy that's sitting over there and he's constantly reading. He's constantly, meeting with intel. He's constantly, he's meeting with the other ints, and he's not just sitting there and he's just like, what do we do now? He's the guy that is just always forward leaning. He's in the talk. He's got a very regimented schedule where it's like, he wakes up, he works out, he goes, checks on what the status of ops are. And, it just does that whole battle rhythm thing. And he's like, not just sitting there like, I'm going to watch the next series of of Dexter.
For the third time.
Yeah, for the third time this deployment. So
nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. No, I think that is one of the unique things of the entire SOF community, though, is that officer enlisted relationship. And one of the things that I think about all the time is when people see us and they call us cowboys or whatever, and they see the chief and you maybe calling each other by first names. Like, can you explain how we maintain professionalism, even though it looks like we're not necessarily being professional in maybe the traditional military sense? Like,
I think ultimately it comes down to that mutual respect, right? Like, it's the rank in the military is all based on time, right? It has nothing to do with experience per se, right? I mean, as long as you keep fogging a mirror, you're going to generally progress. Now, if you do something catastrophic, right, you might not. And then typically those guys get out, right? But generally speaking, in the military, if you stay in 20 years, you're going to hit, E9. If you stay in 20 years as an officer, you're going to make captain or flag, right? So you're going to continue to progress through that. But I think that, again, it goes back to, we see those guys that, like, a chief, if he's a good chief and you have that relationship, you 100% respect him because he's a chief, right? And because of his experiences, because that those experiences have been tested and true, and why he's in that position, right? It's not just because he fogged a mirror and kept making it through, right? At least the good ones that you want to be around and you want to continue to stand up beside.
In buds, because you have people that are already in the Navy that, say they've been in the Navy for 8 years and then they realize, like, hey, I really want to go be a SEAL. kind of when you went through, what do you typically see in terms of rank wise? I'm sure you don't have any Master Chiefs going through buds, but kind of like, but what kind of is the average rank, would you say?
The average is E4, E5. Like every now and then you'll find an E6 in there. Every now and then you'll find a Lieutenant JG or an O2 or an O3 officer. But generally speaking, you're kind of in that E4, E5 range. And like I said, I think we had a few guys that were E6s. And I mean, like looking back now at those guys, I'm like, dude, because I was 21 and they're 10 years older than me, and it's like I could never imagine like how bad I hurt at 30. I was like, man, there's no way. Like that would have sucked. But it's like that 10 years is crazy how different that makes you feel and stuff. But but for the most part it's younger, and I think it's continued. I mean, obviously, like any other community, I mean, they've pushed hard to recruit more and put more people through. So like we have a lot more people applying, right, than ever. And which means the class sizes are getting bigger, but what means obviously more people are, graduating, but what's staying true is the percentage of failure, right? So it's like, yeah, you put more people through and we're graduating more, but like what's staying true is 80% of the people, 85% of the people that try out are going to wash out, right? Like, so like, yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, that Hill Week had 60 guys. And it's like, my Hill Week only had 13 or something like that. It's like, yeah, but they also started with 360 or whatever it is. And it's like, you started with 50. It's like, it works out ultimately with the math. And the one thing that I've kind of heard talking to some guys that are still out there at the training command is like, a few years ago, there was still always like, I'd say like a little bit of a good old boy where it's like, there was peer-to-peer evals and guys would be like, well, hey, listen, you're failing every run, but like the guys like you and we see that you're not going to quit. Right. And they're not to push the guy along, but they're like, or a guy that didn't do as well on swims or stuff like that, but he always had that personality and things like that. And so like, they wouldn't let him make it through, but they would be like, hey, they would like I had a kid that wasn't a good swimmer. And Zach and I, probably one of my worst swims ever was this little kid. I say little kid. I mean, he was just because he was shorter than me, but we were both in Smurf crew, funny enough. So I'm 5'10". He was like 5'3", 5'4". And so like carrying the boat and I'm looking at him like, dude, come on, this is not fun. Like, he's just like holding, but he wasn't a good swimmer. And so the instructors were like, hey man, this kid has to pass. Like you're going to make this kid pass. And like, so Zach and I hooked him up and we're like throwing him, like swimming up beside him, taking him up, throwing him for a 2-mile ocean swim. And like, I got done that swim and we barely passed. And I was like, just on exhaustion. I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank God that's over. That was the hardest swim I ever did in buds, but like he made it through first phase. We were already post Hell Week. But he ended up failing one of the other treads in second phase. So it kind of sucked, but never made it to the team, but good guy. Right. From what I'm hearing from guys now, like there's none of that now. They're not doing peer evals anymore. It's legitimately, you don't make the time, too bad. And they're just like, boom. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think that in a good way, right, that means the standard's being held, right? But in a bad way, you miss out on a guy that potentially is going to be a good dude and be a good operator and someone you want to be in combat with, for a guy that potentially, right? Yeah, he's great at PT, but his personality won't fit the teams, and he's just going to be an absolute turd. Like, yeah, he can crush the PRT and he can do all these like pull-ups and push-ups and he's a CrossFit, guru or whatever. But it's like, when it comes down to operating, he's a douche, and it's like, so.
I've never met anybody like that. That's never happened.
Those guys never sneak through the cracks.
Yeah.
No,
they never.
Yeah. Man, I got to be honest, man. You bring up a whole lot of good points that could take me a whole bunch of different ways, and I think you're right. It's a delicate balance. There's an art and a science to it, right? And would I rather have somebody be so good at PT that they beat me up at the mountain, but they're incompetent when it comes to they're just mediocre when it comes to doing their job, or would I rather have somebody that's phenomenal at their job, but it's going to take us double the time to get up there? Like, it's almost one of those MET-TC mission environment type things, like, but you're right. There has been a ton of people, and I'm Smurf guy too. I'm 5'4", so those swims crushed me. I mean, demolished me. But, I was almost not a controller because of swimming. And you see it across the board. And I'm by no means saying I'm a good controller, but like, there's a lot of dudes that were lost or cut because of missing a swim by 2 seconds, or, missing a eval for pull-ups by 1 or 2 pull-ups, and you're like, man, that guy, because he's a phenomenal team player, just great characteristics. And I think, I know a lot of the services now are doing, the reality is we're scouting better, recruiting better, we're developing better, we're training and assessing better now. So a lot of these folks that are coming in are definitely way better than I ever was, because all I ever did some underwaters, did some running, some cows to train. I didn't know what rucking was or anything like that. So there's a lot better training and smarter training now. That's interesting that they're not doing the peer evals now. But you guys have psychs, or at least now they have psychs on deck that are providing assessments, because I know we do that.
Yeah. So like I said, it's something new that I'd heard. And I mean, I haven't been out there to confirm or whatever, but that's just something that I'd heard, that they were getting away from that and legitimately, like, 2205. Oh, sorry. You didn't make the cut. See ya. And it's like, that's your third fail, gone. So like I said, I mean, I think that, there's a pro and con to it, obviously. I still think that, like, to the point where something that I've tried to do is I've like now gotten out and I've had an opportunity to talk at VMI. So I went to Virginia Military Institute. So I got a chance to talk there to, so when you're a freshman there, you're called a rat, the first year. They treat you like crap the whole time. But at the end of the rat line, or about 3/4 of the way through the rat line. So first semester, you're a rat, and about halfway through second semester, you're a rat. And then you do this thing called breakout. And it's a whole day. It's rucking. It's a whole bunch of evolutions throughout the day and all these things like that. I mean, you're from 4 a.m. till dinner time, you're putting out all day. And it sucks. And it's not like a let's see who can quit thing. It's just a culminating event. Everybody has to do it. It's a rite of passage. Last year, right before COVID, was when I got to talk to the class, and I was like, hey, if I'm going to come up there and talk to you guys, then I want to also do breakout with them. And the senior class was like, you really? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to come out there. They're like, we've never heard of alumni coming up here to do it. I was like, well, listen, I'm not going to sit here and talk to the class about what they just went through if I didn't also go through it. Now, I'm not going to do everything, but I did all the evolutions, and I kind of like bounced around with him and did the ruck march. I did all the stuff with him, but like, yeah, it's kind of a cadre, whatever. It was fun. And, but I got up on there, I got up and talked to them. And, so retired 4-star, General P was the superintendent at the time. And I was just like, hey, listen, like, I just want to let you know, like, and kind of what we were talking about back at the beginning, I was like, I want you to let you know that what you guys did, yeah, you should be proud, but nobody gives a fuck about what you just did. It's like, and if in 4 years, when you graduate, or let's say in 10 years, when you come back for your 5-year reunion or whatever it is, and all you have to talk about is your rat line stories, I was like, you failed. Like, you failed us, you failed alumni, you failed the school, because you did nothing with what we just gave you. Like, you literally just said, oh, that's it, I'm done, I don't have to do anything else. And you never went to go look for like the next, what's the next thing? What's the next thing we can do? And I think that that's critical, kind of back to what we were talking about at the beginning of like that respect thing and good people with that. We're always looking for like, how do we progress as a person, as an organization, and so on, and constantly looking at what's the next best place to be.
Yeah, I'm glad that you use the word progress, because I think that that's important. It's progressing as a person, as an organization, as an institution. You're professionalizing what you actually do. So if you go from, when we all kind of went through our own respective selections to what it is now, it's night and day difference. Probably more so on our side than the Bud side, but it's still a lot different from when you went through, and you can just see the progression and the professionalization from when we went through until now. And I mean, just the NSW compound out in Coronado alone, like, I know you said you hadn't been out there in a couple of years, but like, they have a new compound out on the island, and it is unbelievable. I mean, it is something, it's almost indescribable. But it's progressing. It's professionalizing. The SOF and the SOCOM community has done amazing things for the last 20 years, right? So not saying it was owed, but it was earned, right? So again, I'm rambling, but it's a professionalization type thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest, I guess, a little bit of a fear with our communities is what we're seeing right now with, like, you have so much at the top leadership in any organization that has combat and has a ton of experience. And we've got we have this huge gap where we have basically anybody that's come in since 2012, 13, right? They haven't seen anything really. I mean, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, if they came in at that point, like, they really we weren't doing really combat operations, definitely not in Iraq, I mean, some in Afghanistan and stuff like that, obviously, but, and even in places like Africa, like I did 2 deployments to Africa, and like, those are some sketchy times of deployments in there, towards the end of my active time, like, but they weren't your combat experience, like, hey, we're shooting, getting shot at. They were a completely different, combat experience in that where it's like you're living out on town, and you like, I don't know who's a bad guy and who's not a bad guy, but so I think that, as it's going away, it's transitioning and seeing this big thing that's getting ready to, all these guys that are getting ready to retire, here in the next few years, 3 to 4 years, we're going to lose so much of experience. And we have these guys that came in thinking, because a lot of them did, they thought, hey, we're going to be in this war. We're going to go shoot people and do this and this and this. And it's like, they came in and that didn't happen. And then there's a whole nother section of people that are just starting to come in knowing that we're kind of at peace right now. We're not really sure. So like, they're still coming in knowing that they're probably not going to see anything. So like, it's just that evolution. And it's like, we're losing these guys to some degree. Some of the guys that I've talked to, you know, they're still in, but they're bitter, right? Because they're like, they thought they were going to get some and they haven't. And then you got these guys that are starting to come in now and like, they knew that they weren't going to see. And so that's another thing that I try to, when I talk to guys, especially as they're graduating, is just like, listen, like the movies, the, you know, Call of Duty and all this stuff like that. It's like, listen, it's not going to it's not what you're going to see when you get there. And I would also argue some of the stuff you're going to see is actually going to be sketchier than what I even saw in a place like Baghdad, right? Like, it's like anybody can do that type of operation when you have stacks of assets. And I mean, you know, you have AWT, Predator, you know, Hammer, all these things stacked on you. And it's just like, hey guys, like, we're good. We're like, pick a fight with me.
We're gonna be all right.
You know, like, I dare you to pick a fight with me, because guess what? Like, I'm gonna hammer that guy, that, you know, it's like, yeah. I got my choice of assets, and you're gonna, you know, turn into nothing here soon.
Well, it doesn't help when your cadre at, say, Buds or RANS and stuff like that are all very decorated, have lots of combat experience, and all they hear are stories about so-and-so did this and holy shit, you know, and it's like, so that doesn't help either.
It doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't. That's for sure.
I think one of the things to think about, though, is the folks that joined pre 9/11 when we weren't doing a lot of stuff, you know, when they were asked to go out there and do everything, they performed. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's, and I think there are some negatives about, you know, our generation holding on to the Afghanistan thing and saying that this is the way business is done. And if you haven't done this, then you're not anything. And as we move more into the near peer environment, you know, we need to get those guys that have some time to think about things to get out there and actually get after the mission instead of just, you know, grinding them into dust in a shooting war that, you know, never ends.
Yeah, no doubt. And I definitely don't think that the guys won't or can't. I think it's just in the messaging of, like I said, I mean, the 2 deployments that I did to Africa, and yeah, I got to go on, I mean, I don't want to call them, you know, missions. Well, I guess they were, you know, whatever. But like,
that's the thing right there, because they weren't Iraq or Afghanistan missions.
Right,
you're like, yeah.
They weren't DAs, right? So,
right.
But arguably they were sketchier than the hundreds and hundreds of DAs that I went on. Like I said, I mean, like, if we got into a contact, there was nobody there, right? Like it was going to be the 5, 6, or 7 or 8 of us versus whatever force we were going to be on. We had no medevac really. Like, you know, it was like, what's your medevac plan? Well, 48 hours from here, you know, we hope we'll get like, or maybe we can contract a local guy to fly us somewhere. And, you know, like we definitely didn't have PJ. We didn't have anything like that. You know, I typically had a SOCM or an FMF or you know, some kind of corpsman with us, but like, we definitely didn't have any type of, I wouldn't call it a next level care at all, you know? So, but I do think that those, but I also, when I was a platoon commander at that time, I made sure my guys knew like that, like we could do work if they wanted to. And it was on us to go figure out how to make this work. And yes, there are, you know, your guys are going to be in Afghanistan or other places, and they're going to be talking about all these, you know, DAs that they're going on or patrols that they're going on. I was like, but you don't have any support here. Like there is work here to be done. You just have to open your eyes out more and not just think that it has to be a DA or it has to be, you know, kinetic. You know, there is work to be done here. And it's why we're here. You know, it's like, it's not just to sit here and collect $120 a per diem a day.
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That's going to hurt my feelings. But yeah, speaking of the next generation and moving on and all that other stuff, we could talk about, you know, your time as a SEAL, I think the entire podcast, it's a whole hour. But I was reading your bio. I got on your website and stalked you a little bit. And you did 13 years, which is fairly unusual. You and Zach, I think, got out after 10 years to pursue business opportunities or whatever, become entrepreneurs. What was that like? How'd you make that decision? And then I guess Matt Bach was the first thing you did.
Yeah, so Matbach was so we started Matbach actually while we were still active, and just kind of had it as a side project. We were starting to build products, and a lot of them, a lot of our early successes and some of our best selling products still to this day came from Iraq and Afghanistan, just from the need of why is everybody other, like every other manufacturer is just copying everybody else, right? And it's just like this is BS. Like okay, everybody can make a plate carrier. How do we how do we figure out how to do something better than everybody else? And so looking at that and relying on guys on the ground and their experience and talking to guys and just really listening to feedback. So we had Matbach going, and we were both pursuing other things. Zach got out, went to med school for like 3.5 years at one point, and then decided, all right, being a doctor is not what he wanted to do. So, and then for me, I really thought that I was going to continue on and do a full 20. I planned to go screen for Dam Neck and go do that. And then kind of on my last workup, my now ex-wife, her and I split. We had 2 kids, went through a divorce during that. And then that deployment was just miserable for me. And I was like, even before we went on deployment, I told my command, I was like, hey, listen, I'm done. I'm done after this. Like I can't do this and be a dad, and I'm not going to sacrifice being a dad. And I was like, so I decided to stay in the reserves and do that. I at one point had an opportunity to do kind of the active reserve piece, where I was going to be like more of an ops role for the reserve teams, and hold down the guys that were mobilized, but that went away. And so then I went unemployed for like 3.5 months. So that was great. Because at the time, Matbach wasn't in a position to take on my salary or replace my salary. And really, because we were reinvesting every dollar back into the company. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, I need a job. And they're like, we don't have the capital to do that. We've been putting everything back into product development. So, I went and started work, and I did investment banking for about a year, to learn how to raise capital, structure deals. I thought that it was going to be, and it has been a great just education. For a year, I learned from a guy that did, was 20 at the time. He was 23 years in the industry. I got to work underneath him for an entire year, help other companies raise capital, be in front of these investors, and then just understand what that looks like to help me as someone who's transitioned. So I did that for a year. And then at that point, Strike Force was really starting to kick off. And he basically looked at me and he was like, listen, like, I hate to tell you this, but like, you really need to go do that. Like, I hate that I'm going to lose you, but like, in good faith, I can't also have you stay here and do this. Like, you need to go devote everything into Strike Force. And I was like, okay. So we're still good friends. I'm still, keep in contact with him pretty regularly. And so we did the Strike Force piece. We ended up just selling that, closing everything, actually the day before Veterans Day. So 10 November this year, we finalized everything there. So Matbach ended up selling all of its shares of Strike Force and parted ways with the owners there. But so we did that for I guess almost 4 years or so. And from there, we've kind of started a couple other companies from there. But the transition was tough just because I went through a divorce. Like I said, was unemployed. Kind of thought I had things lined up, and those all fell through, and it was kind of hectic. And I tell guys all the time when they're transitioning, the biggest advice is, just like you have your comms plan, your PACE plan, like you need to have the exact same thing. You need a primary, alternate, contingent, emergency, like, and then like literally like to go to hell, like, hey, what am I doing now? And like, I hit that. I like when I was unemployed for those few months, I Ubered for a little bit to just get some money going. Like I needed I needed income. And it was like, I can't sit here and do nothing. Like, what do I do with my hands? You know? Yeah. So.
No, it's crazy because, you know, if you're in the military, if you're 10 years ish or post 10 years and you ask someone for advice, like, hey, I'm thinking about getting out to do this thing, especially around like the 13-year mark, I think 99% of the people are going to tell you, man, just stick it out to 20.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the, you know, as a SEAL, you know, as one of the team guys and all that other stuff. And you talked about having a pace plan and all that other stuff. Is there anything that you gained from that experience on team that helped you make it through that in particular?
Yeah, I mean, we use a lot of stuff that we learned in the team space. I think military veterans, it doesn't matter what organization, like a natural fit is being an entrepreneur. And some people don't want to, and that's fine. But I think it's just a natural fit for guys because it's like you're constantly looking at you constantly have problems, right? And you're constantly trying to do more things with less resources, and it's constantly like you're trying to figure something out, and you don't really have everything in place, and you just kind of have to make it go, right? And I think that every time I use a lot, I use the 5-paragraph op order. Whenever solved with problems for things, you know, just go through that whole thing. It's such an easy, methodical plan that I had over a decade of doing, and I, you know, did it thousands and thousands of times. When you when you look at, workups to deployments and everything else like that, how many times have you built that plan out? It's like, I can do it in my sleep. It's like, so, okay, problem, boom, do. I can run through the 5-paragraph op order. I can partition stuff off and know, and it's changing some of the language. So like, for example, admin and comms on the 5-paragraph op order, right? So, your SMEAC. Well, for me, for that, like communication, that's my marketing plan. Like, that's like, now I'm calling it marketing, but in the military, we call it comms plan. And some of the admin and PSYOPs and all these things like that, and kind of the logistics piece of that. It's like, well, those are all the other things you need to do to make your business run or solve that problem. And it's like, it's such an easy plug and play. It's just rewiring the language, and just, you can't obviously call it a SMEAC. People would be like, so.
No, I love it because we get that question all the time. Like, hey, if I join, what can I do afterwards? And my typical answer is you can do whatever you want when you get out. And so I just kind of wanted to walk the dog on that and make sure everybody understands that, if you can make it in this community and you have a desire to do something else, which I think is the number one thing, is the want to do it, and those character traits and all that other stuff, is you can be successful at almost anything.
I'll tell you so the one thing that really helped me in that transition, and then just finding that. So like I said, I really thought that I was going to finish out and retire as a SEAL. And so for a couple of years, honestly, from the time I got off active duty till the time that this guy, the guy that I work for, Bob, asked me, he's like, in less than 3 sentences, what do you want your tombstone to say? And I was like, dang, I don't know. It's like, what do you want to be remembered for? Right. And so it took a minute for me to think about it. And I rattled off right away. I was like, working out, and family. And he said, okay, but give me more. And I was like, all right, so I want my work to make an impact. I want my working out to inspire other people to want to work out too. Right. And then for my family, I want to lead my family. I have 4 kids. I want to lead my family to be the best version of themselves. I don't care if they want to be a painter. I don't care if they want to be a team guy. I don't care if they want to be a professional athlete. Like, I want to support them in whatever they want to do. And I'm going to help give them some guidance on that. But ultimately, hopefully they make their own decisions on whatever they're going to go do. But I'm going to be there as a parent to be hard on them. Right. I call my son, hey buddy, what's up? But like, I'm not his buddy, right? Like, I'm his dad. And sometimes I have to be harsh on him, and sometimes I have to give him love. Like, it's that balance of that. But those are my 3 things. Like, if on my tombstone, it says that I love the New York Giants, then I feel like I failed, which New York Giants are awesome, but it's not what takes up my time. When I look at my calendar, those three things to me consume my time. And those three things are what I schedule for. I scheduled dates with my wife. Actually, later this afternoon, I got a date with my wife, and I scheduled it in my calendar. Like, I am not taking phone calls. I'm not doing anything in the afternoon because I'm taking my wife out on a date. I have to do that. One, because I'm half retarded, but two, because if I don't schedule it, right, like it never gets done. Honestly, like I'm very systematic in that. Like I schedule my workouts. I schedule all this stuff in there because I don't want and when you get out and you no longer have that structure in the military, and kind of what we were talking about a few minutes ago, it's like the military just preps you for doing whatever you want to do. And like when you're in the military, it's like, hey, every day they tell you what time to show up and what time to leave and what you're doing in between. And there's no like, oh, I got to make my own decision. Once you get out, it's like, wait, I can sleep into 7 o'clock. Like, this is awesome. Like, man, and it's so easy. It's so easy to fall off that. It's like, every morning I was up at 5:45, boom, 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 going to the team, driving here, doing this. And now it's like, well, I get up at 6, I get up at 6:30, I don't care. I get my workout in.
It's funny that structure, you absolutely need it. And you're right. The military does prep you for that. And I mean, I notice it generally, even on the weekends, I'm up at 5:45, but occasionally, whenever I'm having sleep issues or something like that, like yesterday, for example, I didn't sleep at all. I slept until I finally got to sleep, and I slept until 8:30, and I felt like I had wasted the day. Like the day had gone like that. I got a couple things done, but nothing like I thought. And it's funny because me and you throw date nights in the calendar and stuff like that. Like me and the family, to include the kids, have a shared calendar. That way we all know what's going on. We all, have certain places we need to be, invites, date nights, the whole deal. And it sounds ridiculous. Like, what, are you kidding me? You got to schedule time, put it on your calendar to have a date night. And man, when you get busy enough, and it at least holds you to it. Because it's like, hey, anybody else that can see your calendar, hey, I know that he's got something going on. I'm not going to bother him. And then it's almost kind of like you said at the beginning when you told everybody that you were going to go be a SEAL. Man, all right, you almost kind of went all in and said, hey, this is what's happening. And then when it doesn't happen, people are like, hey, I thought you said you were going to go be a SEAL, or I thought you were going to go take your wife out for a date. Yeah, about that,
Yeah. Well, the people that say it's ridiculous are the same people that will say they don't have time, but then they sit there and watch Netflix for 4 hours each night. It's like, dude, you know how much stuff I can get done?
I know.
If I can get 4 hours, like uninterrupted 4 hours of time, like, oh man, I'm crushing through some work.
I'd pay for that.
Yeah. But I love that. It's like, people are always like, I don't know how you have time to run this or do this. You have all these different companies and all this stuff like that. It's like, for me, again, I control my calendar. I don't let that calendar control me. I don't sit there on weekends and binge watch all day, episodes and shows. And I mean, we will put on a show and have it on the background, but like, I'm doing something else. Like, I'm not just sit there glued to whatever it is. My kids love it whenever they're like, hey, let's watch a movie. And what happens in the movie, I fall asleep. Doesn't matter what the movie is, unless it's Top Gun. Then I'll stay awake for that. Then I'm just sitting there reciting the whole thing, and they're like, I hate you. Like,
especially
stop.
the volleyball scene. That volleyball scene is
It's hot.
I got you.
So, talking about, excelling and that kind of stuff, I want to go into, I want to touch on CardoMax, because I know we were going through the kind of progression from MatBach, the Strike Force Energy, and now you're in the CardoMax realm where you're dealing with, immunity boosters and energy enhancers and all that kind of stuff. How did you come up with that?
Yeah. So, when we love to disrupt industries and bring unique products, right? MatBach is all about bringing unique products and disrupting industries for that. So when we looked at the supplement space, we really saw there's nobody out here doing single serve liquids. We saw that the opportunity where some of the stuff that Zach and I were already taking, we could concentrate down and make it into a liquid form and cut out some of the BS that was in some of these other and things. And so like you hit on the immune booster, for example, the main active ingredients in the immune booster are called adaptogens. The three of them, Schisandra, rosea, and oh man, my brain, Siberian ginseng. Those three adaptogens are actually almost a century old natural herbs that have been used for colds, flus, and other things like that, primarily in Europe, in Russia, China, all through like Sweden and the UK and other places like that. They put them in teas. They make them into teas. And so, and there's a Swedish researcher right now that took almost our exact formula for our immune booster, and it has been for the last year testing it for COVID. And the response and the clinicals are supposed to be done next month, actually. So that it ended yesterday or the day before, and then the actual report is supposed to be published next month. But those ingredients were what Zach has been taking those three individual ingredients for years. And he would just buy the individual powders and make his own. And we were like, well, that's an easy thing that we can do. Our recovery is geared more towards TBI and the research around mild TBI and TBI effects. And so we're using some stuff that's coming out of Texas A&M, some of the research that's coming out of Texas A&M to help guys that have traumatic brain injuries, and seeing that the main active ingredients that we're using are cytoclone and creatine. And then we have some other stuff in there as well to help with that recovery. But those are two out of the three ingredients that Texas A&M tested that have seen a significant reduction in TBI and mild TBI cases. And so we're like, well, again, that's another thing that fits our market. Like military guys, like I know I have issues. I know other guys have issues with that. So how can we introduce something that is good for, hey, I get a good workout in, but I'm also going to get something good for my brain too. And so that was like the recovery, the energy intensifier, obviously working out. I've taken tons of different pre-workouts and I hate all of them because like I have energy, but like I also like to get a little bit more to go into my workout and just get a good feel through my workout. But I don't need stuff to make my skin itch, or like I also don't want to take something where like I feel like I have a big bubble gut, because I do like to do more of like a CrossFit type workout where I'm doing a lot of calisthenics or I'm supersetting things when I work out. And I don't want to feel like I'm going to throw up. Right. Like, and so, again, when we designed it, it was like, how do we provide something that's a functional energy? So it's like, it's not an energy drink, but it's not like your hair's on fire, pre-workout. And so it's an energy intensifier. So like, I'm going to give you that boost of energy, but I'm not going to give you those two extremes. And so we formulated that way for that. And then our hydration, is the fourth one that we just came out with. Again, as we looked at it, it's like, why would you use a powder to try to rehydrate someone? It's like, well, I mean, you use IVs, you use, it's like all these things. If you need to hydrate someone, you're not putting powder into them. And so we figured out how to concentrate that down, emulsify everything down into that liquid form, and then give them more electrolytes and Gatorade, and even, it's basically like taking an IV in some water and then shooting it with a good flavor. So, and it doesn't have any artificial dye. So like kids like it too. And it's not like, they're sitting there with like purple lips because they drank a Gatorade that's just full of sugar and crap.
Or your poo comes out really green.
Yeah, exactly. So it allowed us ultimately. So I guess the short answer is it allowed us to open up a lot more products to the market for us, and we just saw a bigger opportunity to introduce things that we were already taking, but coming in at a different spin. So we really pride ourselves on not putting stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. Why none of our stuff has any artificial coloring in there, right? So there's no dyes, there's no artificial coloring, and it allows them to consume that product without your body needing to break down one other thing.
No, and it's definitely popular. Like I'm a big fan of the immunity booster, but like it's just telling because for that particular product, like the immunity booster, you guys have been, I know it's back in stock now, but there was some serious shortages. I mean, as recently as 6 months ago. And it's probably even more recently that. So like, it's definitely popular. People are going after it. And I know the drinking bros promote the hell out of it too. Yeah. But, so it's significantly bigger platform than ours, but I mean, like everybody wants to, get those vitamins and that immunity, especially in the last 2 years.
I mean, I've taken, like I said, Zach was taking it for years before that's what I was drinking in my Waterloo. I had the watermelon immune booster in the Waterloo. I drink at least one of those a day, and I have, all years this year. Not only because I like the flavor and things like that, but I do believe in the adaptogens that are bringing in there as well.
Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I love the liquids. I love everything that you guys have been doing. Obviously, you guys, we talk about it all the time, and we drink it all the time. I think that's what we're all drinking right now is some form of Cardo Max and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I try to keep my kids out of it though, because they just will go through everything, and then there's nothing left for me. So, gee, kids. But Sean, you haven't sat still, in your life ever. And we're talking about Cardo Max, but what's next for you? What are the big things on the horizon? When people reach out to you on Instagram or follow you, what can we expect coming next from you?
Yeah,
and Zach, I guess.
So I think some of the next things coming for us, we're continuing our world domination, just slowly but surely. We've hit some pretty significant milestones with a collective organization that we have. We made the Inc. 5000 list last year, which was a huge milestone for us. We're one of the top 5,000 privately held company, top 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies in America right now. And out of the top 5,000, we're right at 1,000. So we're really stoked at hitting that milestone for us. But what was cool was this year. So that was all based on 2020 numbers. We hit 2020 numbers by April of this year. And so like we're still just growing at just an incredible pace, which also has its own challenges, obviously, when you're growing that fast. And, when you look at Mapbox as an organization, has been around 10 years, but really Zach and I and the collective, I mean, everybody, it's not just Zach and I, but when you look at what we've really been able to focus, it's only been since about 2016, 17 timeframe that we've really been both solely focused on this, nothing else, and growing this. So, while we've been around 11 years, it's only been in the last 5 or 6 that we've really been able to devote time and effort to it. But we're really excited where things are going. CardoMax, being that this was our first year in business, and we almost hit 30,000 orders in our first year in business. I mean, we're just growing at an incredible rate, which is, Peaches, to your point, why Immune Booster was out of stock for so long. It's like we kept on sending orders in, and at one point we had like 15 things that were needed to be produced, or we were going to run out of stuff, and we were just like, we were horse trading for things. It was like, man, I really want to get this hydration in, so just go ahead and put hydration up front. Like, I know it's going to suck. Immune Booster is going to be out longer, but it's just like the decisions you just had to make on that. But it was like, thankfully we have everything in stock right now. So everything is in stock. We've got a healthy supply of everything, except for recovery, which is a little bit low. But that's in production right now. And so is the hydration, which is also down to, I think we had about a month of inventory left on that stuff. So it's one of those weird things. It's like, we had on the Immune Booster, we had a 3-month supply earlier this year get consumed in 3 days. And it was like, look, I can't do anything with that. Like what we were projecting that was going to do for 3 months, there was nothing I could do. I was like, I can't like pull a rabbit out of my hat and like, hey guys.
You can't forecast that.
No, there's no way. We've done pretty good. We've got a lot. I've built a lot of different systems, hopefully checks and balances to help us. We're trying to put more inventory in and also watch it better to really see and project out. So, but really excited to see where CardoMax is going to go in this next year. I mean, arguably we're either one of, if not the fastest growing single serve liquid supplement company in America right now. I mean, we're growing at such a clip that it's fun. It's scary. And there's also a lot of pain in the ass to it too.
For sure. Well, we definitely appreciate the partnership with CardoMax, and it originated with Strikeforce, and we still got them on as well. But like, man, we love having you guys on and everything that you guys are doing. Just because it's pretty cool. I think I had sent you a picture. Maybe I had sent Zach a text, but it's cool being out there in the field with the guys and stuff like that. And then I see on their back, a Matbach piece of kit. And then one of the other guys was drinking a Cardo Max. He had one of the shakers that had Cardo Max on. And I was like, it's just kind of cool. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I know those guys. It's pretty cool. So it's good to see people succeed.
No, appreciate it. We love it. And I mean, we love giving back too. I mean, it's something that's so critical for us too. I mean, we try to donate as much as possible back and do things and early on, I guess it was earlier on this year, or maybe it was late last year, we ended up donating about $500,000 worth of masks to LA that was getting hit pretty hard last year, the homeless community and other stuff like that. And while it wasn't directly impacting, obviously, the veteran community, it was just something that we saw as an opportunity to be able to do. And obviously, Buds is out in California and other places, and we were able to link up with some guys to help get those out there. And we know that there's obviously in that homeless population, we know there's veterans there. And so it was an easy thing for us to do because like we just love being able to also give back when we can for stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I know the community appreciates it, and especially the veteran community. So, So as we wrap it up, again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for telling your story and giving us a background. And again, really appreciate the partnership with Cardo Max and friendship with you and Zach. So appreciate you coming on. You guys are always invited. And from there, we're out. Later, guys.
Later.